I've drawn up the plans for the SR71 Blackbird to be used with the PowerUp 4 module. It's got an 8-inch wingspan and it fits on an A4 sheet. You can print the plan off on an A4 sheet or 2 A4 sheets. And I've marked up a piece of foam. This is a piece of, I think it's about 2.6mm thick foam I've got here. So I've marked out the wing shapes. I cut out templates, marked around them. So I've got the main fuselage and wing, top and bottom sections, and a sked that goes underneath. We also have the fins that go on top and little engine pods. So I'll cut all these parts out and I'll start the assembly. Not very good light in here. This is quite shiny, reflective surface. I shall try my best. Here I just make sure I've got the various centre lines marked on, because our folds go on some of these lines and the others are just for lining up the other layers. I'm just marking out some gauges for setting up the angles of the fin and the angles of the dihedral on the wings. The dihedral on the wing top is 10 degrees and on the fin it's 14 degrees. On the wings there's a centre line marked with the fold for the dihedral is going to be. So we'll put a slight crease on the top surface and then fold it up and use our little gauge under the wing to judge the height, and then we put tape on it to set it in place. Tape on the top and the bottom. Tape the top first. Right, so what I'll do is I'll gently scribe that with a blunt pencil or something like that. It's a lot more difficult to see on this dark grey shiny material as opposed to the nice yellow. Just a little crease line in both. It's a case of gently bending up there. Try not to crack it. It will be reinforced with tape. Right, so what we'll do is I'll stick a piece of 2-inch wide clear packing tape across there, maintaining that angle, and then turn it over and put another layer on the back. Tricky. So clear packaging tape on there. and the little setting block. I'll also put a piece on the bottom now and try and tie that all together. Right, so that's set at the appropriate angle. I'll just trim off the surplus. So that's the wing dihedral set at 10 degrees on both sides. Tape on top and the bottom. So the next part is the engine pods. These slot into the wings at the back first and then align with that seam that you just created, and these sit vertical to the flat surface there. I find it's best to hot glue gun stick these ones down. Put them up the same way. There is a slightly different curve to each of these, top and bottom. It's barely imperceptible, but yeah, that way up. Difficult to see. Whichever way suits. And then this is the fin that then will go on the top. It will bond on there. Static. Covered the top and bottom of the main fuselage and wing section with that clear packing tape all over for a bit of added strength. And then later we'll glue on a top section and a bottom section. A bit more rigidity along with the skid that goes underneath. But first I'll hot glue these engine pods on. Oh, it's my phone. That's the two motor pods on. These are the mounts for the fins, which go on top. So these mount on like that, and then there's a little setting block that gets the angle. And again, I'll hot melt glue these on. Oops. Just flan that off at a little bit of an angle. I'm just lining up the marks that I made on the parts with the pen. Look. A bit much. It's everywhere. Sticking to my fingers. Right, that's the the two fins glued on. You trim them slightly so I can slip these on like that. Which way goes that way? Yeah, fits fine. And these can get glued on as well. These little 3D printed noses. We'll put them on later. Right, next thing to do is I need to glue on the top piece and glue on the bottom piece. I shall probably put that on with some of this Yoo-Hoo POR glue, which is fine for polyurethane. It's good for gluing flat surfaces. It's not so good for gluing things like these fins because it's not as strong and as rigid as the hot melt glue. It's a bit flexible. It's very good for flat surfaces. You just apply it to both surfaces, leave it to dry, and then there's a contact adhesive so it sticks together. I've glued the top part of the fuselage on, the bottom part of the fuselage, and I've glued the two halves of the skid together, and that'll hot glue down the centre. This little projection on the inside is just to mount the power up unit on. It sits on top of that, attaches to that with either one of the clips that come with the accessory pack, or you can just tape it to that and tape it here. The nose of the power up unit sits in this little recess and angles up slightly. Gives a little bit of thrust down to get the nose up. There's also trim tabs at the back. There's a little cut there and there. Trim tabs, and you can also use the outer edges with trim tabs as well if you need to try and get a bit more climb out of it. So the next thing to do is to hot melt glue that to the bottom and hot melt glue the little motor pods on. Started snowing out there. So this is the Power Up 4 module. This is just the basic as it comes with no, well, I've taken the clip off the front. There's a normal little clip that goes onto the paper aeroplanes. I've just undone the two screws that were there. There's a little skeg there and a little skeg at the back. We can use those to locate it sideways. I've put a very slight slot into the foam here and here. This little raised portion here, the square bit of carbon fibre tube sits on that. And so you push that in till it's in that little groove you made, and the same on the back, and it wants to sit probably about just over halfway past the motor, past the trailing edge of the tail. That should give you about the right balance point. It balances round about here. You can adjust the balance by sliding it forward and backwards. Once you've got it where you want it, just put a piece of tape across here, piece of tape across there, should hold it in. You could tape across the motor as well if you need to be. Yeah, that should do for initial setup. My original pizza box prototype version that was painted and made from slightly thicker foam. Weight is in it 36 grams, which is pretty heavy. Whereas the new model made from 2.6mm foam, showing 29 grams there. 29 grams. So that's quite a good saving. This original one that weighs 36 grams doesn't fly with the standard motor. This one here has been upgraded with 56,000 RPM motors, which seem a wee bit more powerful than the standard ones. This one flies the heavyweight model, whereas the standard unit wasn't able to fly it, it wouldn't get any lift at all. Whereas my other prototype, I made a red one which weighed around about 28 grams, and it flew fine with the standard motor. So unfortunately it's not good flying weather at the moment, so I won't be able to go out a test flight. Shall do that shortly once we get the good weather. So I finished the plane. I painted the little engine pods with some Sharpie pens just to colour them in a bit, because they were just white. And I added a little bit of tape to the nose just to give an extra bit of crash protection. So it's ready to fly in the good weather. The power up unit normally comes with this clip at the front that you can clip onto a paper airplane. We've taken it off for using on the SR-71. It's held in with two little self-threading screws. We can reuse those screws. If you have the accessory kit for the power up, it comes with a little clip like that can clip onto foam, and it's got a groove in it, and you can stick it on the square section and clamp it on with the two little screws, and then that presses down onto the foam, grips it, and then you can adjust the position by sliding it back and forward along the square rail. If you don't have the accessory kit, you can always print a 3D printed version off. This was just a simple version that I knocked up, simplified anyway. It pushes together, and you reuse the two little screws that you took out of the front clip. So that slots on the rail. That sits on there, and using the little screwdriver. These are just self-threading screws that go into the plastic. Yep, it's a pretty good fit. You can slide it back and forward, adjust it to the position you require, somewhere about there. When you put it on the foam, I've got the foam there, it's fairly thick. You need to pinch it down slightly with your fingers just so that it's narrow enough for the clip to go on. I need to pinch it a wee bit more. I should have a pair of pliers somewhere that I could use to do that. There we go. As in, you can pinch it a bit better and seat it right down. Really stiff to go down. And that just holds it in position. You can also use tape as well to stop it sliding forward. So just a little 3D printed clip. A little bit foggy this morning, but not much of a breeze. So a chance to try out the latest version of the SR71 Blackbird. So I'll just start up the application, the power up application. Go on, skip that. That's better. I'll use the Hammerhead playing the settings for that. It seems to work reasonably well. Turn on the plane. And that's started up. So I'll decide which way any breeze is coming from. Feels slightly from the northeast. I'll go over this way a bit. I'll try an initial launch.
Cleared for takeoff.
There it goes. It flies much like the other ones. Turn too sharp down, it takes a bit of a dive. Turn gently, it's fine. Climbing nicely at 60%. Bit wobbly with low power on. Bit nose up. Got an oscillation there. That's better. Just flying too slowly, it was oscillating. I think we'll give it a bit more weight forward, move the motor further forward. It's got that little oscillation to it. Right. Blink. There we go. Yeah, that goes fine. Tape stuck well. Moved the motor a bit further forward, see if that affects it.
Cleared for takeoff.
Yeah, it climbs well.